when I was first getting out of the South playing, I made my way all the way out west one time in about 1994. And I had a CD called Big Blue Sky, and it was my second CD, and I was on my way. And I remember I showed up out west, and I checked 75 CDs in a box, and they didn't show up. And I'm like, oh man, I'm in trouble now. Anyway, they somehow I got some more sense. And what I was mostly doing was working my way up the West Coast, and there were some real shows, like this wonderful place in Berkeley, kind of on the edge of Berkeley in Oakland, and it was called Strings. And Strings was run by an old hippie named Joey, who had converted an old, it was an old laundromat right on San Pablo and Alcatraz. He converted that into a music venue, but no one knew about it unless you were on the list. So it was this really cool kind of speakeasy club, very hippie, dippy, old school, very excellent place to play. Maybe 80, 90, 100 people at the most could fit in there, and they would do dinner and wine and other things. But it was just wonderful. Everyone had just behaved themselves and just had a great time, and that was one of my favorite places. I'd worked my way up to Portland, and I didn't have a proper gig in Portland, so I would open up my guitar case. And I met a guy one time there, an old Vietnam vet, when I was getting a corn dog up on Pioneer Square, and I was getting some lunch, and I ran into this cat who was doing portraits for people. And he had been there since June of 1969 in that area, pretty much living on the street. And he'd been a soldier, or a Marine actually. He was a Marine. But long story short, he got there and he met a hippie girl. She broke his heart, and somehow he just stayed on. So I met him and learned all of that just talking with him. And for some reason, I'm a magnet that way with street people and homeless folks. I'll stop and listen. And oftentimes, you learn a lot about life. Some things you should do, some things you shouldn't. And it's interesting, but I always love to hear human stories. Many years later, we were playing in Portland, Oregon at a big theater. I had made it. Playing about a 1,000-seat theater, sold it out. In fact, Nickel Creek was playing that same night in another theater. And I remember we went over and saw him for a little while and waved from the wings. And when we were walking back through Pioneer Square, we ran into Frank again. And it had been about 15, maybe a bit longer than that since I'd seen him. He was still there, and so he didn't remember me at all. But I remembered him. He had a very distinctive look and voice. And he had this little setup there. So when Patrick and I got home, I told him the whole thing, man, you're not gonna believe this. This guy's got this story, And he said, well, let's write it. And so when we got back home, we got to the studio and we wrote this song pretty quick. And it's called Sunshine. Thank you very much. Well, Frank don't mind the rain. He kinda digs the sound of Portland in November. Sometimes gets you down. You're standing in the doorway, trying to keep out of the cold. No one's looking your way. You got no bills to fold. Frank, he don't like begging. If you use a bucket to get a bed down at the mission, maybe sleep a whole night. about Maria, a girl that he once knew. We all need a little sunshine. We all need a little sunshine. Everybody needs a little sunshine. Too many days, dark and gray. A little sunshine. All right. You know right with his mind. That's where he met Maria. She made him feel so fine. Singing, we all need a little sunshine. She was singing, we all need a little sunshine. Everybody needs a little sunshine. Rain wakes up at sunrise and hears the distant train. Finds a piece of cardboard in the alley by the train. He writes his message black and bold and remembers why he came. We all need a little sunshine. Everybody needs some humanity. Need a little sunshine. Little sunshine. Little sunshine. Yeah, little sunshine. Everybody needs a little sunshine. We all need a little sunshine. Rain don't mind the rain, kind of dig